yeah, welcome to our end of year reflections with co-chairmans Hugh and Tom. I guess we'll just start with Hugh first. Being Mr. 800, we were just discussing before we went live, 13 years of 800 sailing. What keeps you coming back?
Yeah, it's the people. That's what always makes it great. The racing's great, the sailing's great, but it's the people, I think, that have kept me in the class for a long time.
And what do you think is special about the 800 that attracts those type of people?
I think it's that you get a big mix. So obviously with sort of the weight equalization and the fact that it is possible to sail it when it is absolutely hooning, because it's quite attainable boat. So you get a kind of a wide range of sailors. It's affordable. You can sail in lots of conditions. You can be pretty much any weight because of the equalization. And so by the fact that it brings a lot of different people in, I think that creates a lot of strong friendships, because actually that's kind of, there's a richness to the people who are sailing. It's not all pros, it's not all club sailors, it is a real mix, and that keeps it interesting.
Oh, thank you. And a good point to welcome our 800 co-chairman, Mr. Tom Morris, or Mozzie Sales. Tom, obviously you're a YouTube sensation, 4 times 800 national champion. In 2023, you also had your arrival of your second child. What drove you to become a chairman? Take on this chairman role in actually what was it's quite a busy year for you.
Well, I think one of the things was being able to do it alongside Hugh, so that obviously made it much more attractive, considering the hefty weight of my second child arriving on my free time. But no, I think me and Hugh both had a chat, and we were both really passionate about the class, and wanted to see it kind of go from strength to strength, and thought there was probably a bit of a latent potential that could be really nurtured. But yeah, I mean, not just myself, but Hugh's got 2 young kids as well, so we kind of figured between the 2 of us we'd be as good as one, be able to give it the attention it deserves.
And to both of you, really, how do you think your sort of first year went? What was, you talked about having these ideas and nurturing the class. What was your ideas that you think worked really well?
You want to go on that, Tom, or
Do
you want to do the self-backpacking?
We were great, weren't we? Yeah. No, I think I think actually the things that worked the best were things which were effectively already happening in the fleet, or were already good points of the fleet, and we just kind of formalized that. So one thing for me that I thought worked especially well was the kind of post-racing kind of debriefs we did at the Europeans, and have tried to make part of many events as possible. But I think that worked so well because it was already kind of happening anyway. We just made it like a public thing that people knew they could turn up and depend on. So kind of as the kids would say, the vibe was already strong there. So I think that helped it. Yeah, I don't know, Hugh, have you got something else you think worked well?
I think it kind of maybe it kind of connects into why as well I wanted to do the co-chair role as well. I think because as I was saying, 800 has been such a great class for so many years, and I think there were some particular challenges coming out of COVID as well. In a way, I think over this first year we've sort of like thrown quite a lot of things at it in terms of just as much energy as we can, but also sort of trying to show coming to these sailing events and getting involved in the class is something that you can get a lot out of. Regardless if the wind isn't always great, but there'll be a social and there'll be some chat about the boat and stuff you can take away and put into your own sailing. So just trying to, I think, do more. I guess, some of them seem to work really well, like Tom was saying, the workshops after sailing, so that knowledge share is really good. Doing more on the social side. So I think nobody really shies away from having a drink in the bar afterwards with everyone, but just giving them something to do while they're doing that. So we did some pretty fun things this year with pretty weird games that seem to already enthuse people, and we'll probably do more of that as well in the future. But Yeah, for me as well, it's the comms, I think, because I think a lot of things were happening pretty well, but just talking about it more so people know it's happening, when it's happening, and why they should go, just being reminded. So trying to leverage things like social media a bit more, and things like that has been quite effective as well, I think.
These guys, I just have to say, because these guys can't see the video that's playing in the background, but we're being treated to an extended capsize from James and Eddie, which I didn't know was in the video before I started playing in the background, but that'll be an absolute treat for them when they see this video come up. We've just got between us all just wrapping themselves out of sheets in the middle of the boat. So that's
Nice.
fantastic background.
Yeah, well, I think they were one of many at Rutland, right? But they
Yeah.
get the documentaries on them, right? So
yeah.
yeah.
Awesome. So Hugh, to kind of summarize that, and Tom, it's about creating extra value beyond the sailing itself. So be it your debriefs or the social, to kind of put more, as you said, add more value. So as your first year of co-chairman, did it meet your expectations?
I think for me it did. I think you'd always like to see more boats on the water, and I've said it many times to the kind of rest of us on the committee when we've been working out these things, that just because we've pumped in a load of enthusiasm doesn't mean there's going to be immediate response and everyone's going to suddenly get an 800B on the water. So it's about consistency and kind of following that through year after year and knowing it's a kind of a dependable kind of fleet and package and boat to be involved with. So when I look at it, a bit more philosophically, I think the numbers were strong this year and they were quite consistent across the events and generally more boats on the circuit. But looking at individual stories of the sailors as well and the people who've come up and how they've enjoyed their season as well, I think you've got to take that on board and kind of count that as part of the success. So yeah, I think it has met my expectations, but always hoping for just to see more sailors enjoying the boat. So looking for more people on the water next year, I guess.
Oh yeah, I agree with that completely. You kind of you throw a lot of stuff in and you're like, I can't wait for there to be 25 people at the next open meeting, and you're like, oh, okay, it's going to take a while for numbers to maybe grow. But saying that, we did have 25 boats at the Hailing Open, and we did have, I think it was an upturn in like 83% overall attendance on the national tour compared to the year before. So we have had really good upturn in numbers, albeit your expectations, you always want more. I guess that's that's part of it, isn't it? But you do really value the people that keep, I think for me, and I don't know if this makes sense, but you sort of really appreciate the effort people go to come to sailing events. The more you look at it and the more you talk to different people and the different things they might have in their lives, which mean they might always not be able to always come to every event, but they do try. And it's sort of, you start to really appreciate those that do make the effort to come along as well, and value those in the fleet. And so you're not just doing stuff to try and get more people to come. Like I said, you're trying to do stuff to make it worthwhile for these people to keep coming. For me, a big thing about this year as well was I didn't go, unfortunately, but for the Europeans, I think there was 6 different nations there. So even on an international level, there's a lot of interest in the class, and that was great to see. We had our first Italian boat, even though we've had a Europeans at Garda for the last 100 years. We've never had an Italian boat, so I mean that's a win in itself, isn't it? So it's good.
You both mentioned it, greatly appreciating the people who turn up. That's what you said, Hugh, and Tommy said this, people's journey throughout the season. I was just wondering if there's any particular team journey throughout the season that stands out to you when you look back.
I think Anna and Brian are a good team to point to. I think they've embraced the circuit. They've been stalwarts of the season, but actually their sailing's really improved. And I think they were a bit unfortunate in the Indians in the second day to drop down, but I think they were second or third after the first day, and really starting to string together consecutive racing. And obviously, Anna's had a role in the committee as kind of the training rep, but they've actually really benefited from Hannah's own work, I think, in terms of they've attended those and I think really stepped forward in the sailing, which is great, and obviously nice people as well, and exactly the type of sailors we want to build a fleet around. So that's been, I think, really nice to see.
Yeah, I think there's a whole. I think that actually talking about that event, the inlands, there's a whole batch of sailors it was actually really close on points. And it was amazing the results of that event because it was so close. I think there's a whole batch of sailors just kind of on the cusp of all kind of getting to that next level, and they're all on that journey together. And I think it's going to be an interesting year as they all kind of, they're probably going to be still fighting with each other, but it'll be in the be much further up the fleet. And I think that's really great that a lot of people are going on the journey together. They have those rivalries that go on for years in the fleet. Like I know I've been looking at Tom Stransom for about 5 years, so you kind of like, it's nice to have that. I guess that more competitive nature further down the fleet. It's not just the same boats coming, 1, 2, 3, 4. We're getting a lot more fighting throughout the fleet, which is great. But in terms of boats as well, another one that stood out to me this year was probably Martin and Ian, Martin Norton and Ian Brooks. I think they actually, whenever I looked up, they seemed to be about 100 meters in front of us and going really fast. And they had some really good results at the beginning of the year. And that's kind of a different story because they've been in the class for a long time, but their results are actually, very strong this year. So that's really impressive. I think that, you stay in the class and you get the rewards for it as well. So that was really good to see.
And big proponents of the helm shooting, carrying that on.
Yeah. That's the other thing. Like I say, you have different boats with different setups, and I think that shone during the nationals actually in Brightlingsea. We had quite a lot of 49er sailors come in, and you can just see there's lots of people sailing the boat in slightly different ways. But you still got kind of like that older, more established style prevailing in a lot of instances, which is really cool. And yeah, that event as well, we had was it Matthias from the 49er come in. And I think every race when we were sort of sailing with him, you could see he was trying new things. He's that kind of, obviously a very good sailor, and he was looking at the boat and it was new in the boat, but he was trying different modes and different ways of sailing the boat throughout the event. And I just loved when he came in and he talked about that kind of flexibility within the 800. You could experiment, you could try different things, and different things worked at different times. And I thought that was really kind of inspiring, especially because they were quite a heavy team as well. But there was no mention about weight within that. It's so much more focused on technique and style over kind of kilograms, which as a heavy guy who so often just blames poor results in light winds on pies, it was nice to have that and see that even heavier teams, if you're sailing the boat right, can do really well. So I really like that about the nationals. We didn't maybe get, we all want more numbers, but we had a real quality there, and we had a real variety in terms of how people were doing at different times and how they were sailing the boat. So that was really cool.
We talked about what went well. What didn't go so well in hindsight, looking back?
I think I have to put my hand up first of all and say the winter webinars, which was a nice idea, but actually, maybe people don't want to just after a fatiguing day of Zoom calls and Teams meetings, join another one. And I think it's just logistically hard to put that together and nail a time for it. But on the flip side, we knew we wanted to kind of add an element where people could learn about the boat and learn about sailing. We did have the Garda one, and I think that works really well. And we've just had the one looking at the next year's Europeans. I think they work really well because it's a very specific topic where people need to get together and kind of learn about the logistics and kind of prep them for the next season. But the rest of the stuff, I think the things that's worked well in that place is we did a series of videos on little bits of boat bimbling, and I think that format worked a little bit better for someone just going around with a camera and like showing you what you need to see in a shorter format than a long webinar. So yeah, I'd say the webinars for me were just something that didn't quite click.
Yeah, I mean, I think that nothing's really. I don't think anything's. I mean, I think Tom's been probably being a bit harsh on himself. I think, as you said, it's often a case of people just making the time and having the time, and all but having the same time available to come to something like that. Maybe the again, like was it a year ago, we were probably all done with webinars and everything being online. So it's probably the last thing I wanted to join. But I think again, it's a classic example of what we were trying to do, just do more in terms of giving people, especially a feel and a flavor for 800 sailing during the winter when there is less going on.
Tom, we know you like to bimble. And that's probably a bit of an understatement. You've shown me in the boat park about 3 different systems of doing your control lines. You've now got a new boat. What system are you going to do for this one, and why?
Well, we've actually kind of reverted back to scratch with the new boat. So I did put a new control line take up on 1144, and it's still on there, so the guys have still got that, and it kind of achieved one aim in that all the take up was in one place, so you didn't need as much take up, and you could access all rack settings, which is one of my sometimes gripes with it, is that people are kind of having to resplice the boat when they change from an extreme to another. But no, I've kind of gone back to basics. Me and Guy are pretty solid in the middle of the range, and I'm expecting to be sailing most season with Guy, so I've just kind of plumped for what I know works again. Yeah, I don't think it's a critical one. I think we've, as a class over the last 5 years, we've actually ironed out some of the bugs which were that always creep in from time to time, and the boats are actually in a good place. And certainly the new boat that we've just taken on, apart from a bit of fit out to get the blocks and the ropes that we specifically prefer, actually, really it's just the same as the RS fit out. I guess the only nice things, and I think what people are picking up as well, is I think more people have gone for the 4-to-1 jib sheet, which I think is really good and makes that a little bit lighter in the hand and a bit more accurate. And the split caps as well. I think the training day we had down at Hayling, there was a mass cutting of caps, severing of caps into 2, so people don't have to put up with them rubbing on the mast anymore. So that was nice to see. But yeah, I don't think there's really any secrets. I think I've shared all the ideas I've got. I'm waiting for some of the young guys to come in and and show me some new tricks.
Well, we'll wait to see and drink a beer when that happens.
Yeah.
Hugh, before we actually started, you were talking a bit about partnerships, and we'll be starting with a new partnership for 24. Do you want to tell us a little bit about that, and what do you think makes a great team?
So new, yeah. I mean, to put it all into context, so I've sailed with Hannah, my wife, for a long time as me the helm. Is that the right phrase? As me the helm, as the helm being I. And anyway, so we were sailing for a while, and then you start a family and have kids, and it becomes a bit more complex. So trying to find people to sail with, and I guess it is always a challenge, because in skiff sailing you want that consistency. In terms of you sailing with the same people, you start to understand how you move in the boat, where the boundaries are in terms of it's 20 knots, so how high up the thigh can you hold when it's really windy and you're trying to get in the foot loop. It's all those sort of gray areas that you need to iron out. So yeah, I started sailing with Fiona for a while, and then I've sailed with Joe as well, and everyone I've sailed with has been great. And actually it's been a really good learning process for me, because everyone comes into it with a slightly different take on how to do it. And I've been crewing, which is something I used to do before 800, but that's new for me as well. So I think the last couple of years have been a real learning process. And I guess the kind of what makes a good team, it's you spend a lot of time with people at events, on the water, kind of around, and I think it's a case of enjoying each other's company, and the sailing kind of comes from that, because you have a bond in the boat of trust and putting up with people at times when they're singing out of cue when you're going downwind, or singing out of like there's all these different things. It's a very human thing. So getting on with the person is obviously the big part of it. But yeah, everyone I've said has been really great. They've taught me things that I didn't even think about. I think you get quite complacent when you sail a boat for sort of 10 years doing it the same way. And so to have suddenly, 3 people come in and show you new ideas, you're like, oh, okay, yeah, I never did that, just because even though it seems a lot easier, just the change and process of getting to there seems like, why would I do that? But you're kind of forced into it, obviously, when you have to sail with someone else, and you can then see the results, the benefits of it. So that's been really healthy. Next year, I think for the European sailing with Monique, which I'm really excited about. But we've been out sort of twice so far, and every time we go out, it's about 25 knots. I think when the first one out with Monique at the end of season, she was like, "This is the windiest I've ever been in." And then the next weekend where we said, "Was like, no, this is now the windiest we've ever been in." And the next weekend we're doing is the Bloody Mary. So I really hope that's not the windiest we've ever been in, because that would be absolutely carnage. So yeah, again, another great helm who'll sail with for the Europeans, and it's been short but sweet so far, and I'm looking forward to it, and another kind of adventure. But then the good thing about the boat is you can set up in different ways. So racing with Monique, but I'm still planning on doing starting club racing with Hannah back home, probably with helm sheeting, in the background. So yeah, it's in terms of teamwork, it is just about getting on with the person, and I think the rest kind of follows from that. Yeah.
Do you think that variety you're mentioning spiced up your 800 sailing over the last few years?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, no, I would have done 800 sailing. If we cracked on with it and just kept sailing together, it would also be having a great time. It was a nice excuse to get into cruise sheeting for me. I mean, I've always done helm sheeting and enjoyed it in the 800 because I'm quite a big guy, and I could, I like doing the main and kind of being able to steer at the same time. Whereas normally, if you're kind of a bit of a leader, you're shoved up the front of the boat and you don't get to touch anything that steers the boat. So it was nice sailing the 800 because you could do that. But equally, I'd be going upwind. I'd look at all the cruise sheeters and think, well, that does look a bit smoother in sort of when it's windier, and it'd be nice to see what that felt like. So to have your hand forced slightly into do it has been nice. And I like we were saying earlier, I don't see a huge advantage either way, to be honest. I see pros and cons in different conditions, and we've made the boat go fast with both setups. So yeah.
What are the ideas that you want to try for next year that you haven't tried yet?
Well, for me, I think next year, we've got quite a good idea what the calendar's looking like. I think next year is going to be first of all, it's going to be a really great year. We've talked a bit about La Plage, the Europeans. Looks like a really great venue, and I think it's going to be a good start to the year kind of thing. We've also got then at Hayling Island Nationals, and we know Hayling Island is kind of a hotbed of 800 sailing in the UK, so I would expect good numbers there. So it's going to be a great year. I think the things that will make it even better are we're trying to put more emphasis on training next year. For the people that kind of came to the Hayling Island training that we did last year, we kind of had one day of training with a coach from outside of the class, and then we were going to do sprint racing on the Sunday, but unfortunately the wind didn't quite play ball. But I think the format was really good, so we're going to sort of double up next year. So we're going to do 2 of those, one at Hayling Island again, and another one at Lymington later on in the year. So the Hayling Island one with the eyes on the Europeans, and the Lymington one in the summer with the eyes on the Nationals, which is in September. So spaced out throughout the year, some more class training. I think we're going to work on that format of coach racing as well. So I think we're going to talk more about the training, and Anna will, in the coming weeks. But we're going to have coach racing at the Spring Championships early on in, I think it's kind of end of March. So we'll have that will be, I think, a really good way to start the year for a lot of teams who want to get that immediate, where am I and what do I need to do to get ready for these big events. So yeah, the coach racing format, I think something we tried last year. I think we're going to have a better format this year, and we've kind of also got the opportunity to continue it throughout the year. So if the feedback is good from the Spring Championships and it's something that's valuable, we have the option to kind of roll it out more events as we go through the season. So I think that's a big thing for me that I'm sort of looking forward to seeing that come into play.
What about you, Tom?
Yeah, well, I think we've already boat that we threw a lot of different ideas at last year, and I think this year is about doubling down on the ones which we saw the payback from and the enthusiasm for. Hugh said the training, we're expanding that. Feedback at events, having like the debriefs was excellent. The socials, creating that, just another reason to come to events. All those things, I just think we've got to, add to, do more of, and you kind of make them mainstays of the fleet that we're known for. In terms of things that are new, I guess the Europeans in France is going to be a bit of a different event in that we're breaking away, going from a kind of a more corporately owned kind of professional club to one which is kind of full of it's Gilles' home club, so it's where he's from, but it's like more of a volunteer, but with real heart and investment into the event. And I'm really looking forward to that as well. So I think that'll give it a kind of like an authenticity that they'll add a new element for next year. So that's something I'm looking forward to.
I would absolutely agree. I think it's something that, Hugh, you said quite early on in the year, right? Great sailing, great friends, great venues. We talked about the sailing and the friends, and now we're talking about the venues. I myself very much look into La Plage, like, that authentic, the volunteer run, that feel is always nice, but also we're going to be in the heart of offshore sailing as well. Quite a cool, having sailed there a few times, it's quite an interesting place to sail, tidal. But behind an island, there'll be some waves depending on the direction. I think it'll be quite fun and great atmosphere.
I mean, just a quick search when you're looking for accommodation and you sort of Google Maps it and you just see that like never-ending beach that's just looping around the whole venue, and you're just like, yeah. I think, as you say, these things have to be, especially if you're taking family, it's a holiday as well that everyone wants to enjoy, and so. Yeah, like I'd add to that, La Plage, I think is going to be a really good one next year. So
extraordinary achievements, moments, comical moments. You've both mentioned the end of seasons right at the end of the year and that shit of being super windy. But any standout comical or extraordinary moments of this year?
I mean, we've had cameras on boats, so we've caught a few kind of like funny incidents over the season. I think we've had your wandering tiller extension, Ben, and we had Louis falling out the back of the boat as well at Rutland, which went viral with like 100,000 views on Instagram. So
I've actually seen him sailing the boat since. I think you did that on Instagram, so I don't know if it's a good thing. I don't know.
Yeah, I've seen him down there hailing a bit. He's still around. He's still brave enough to show his face. But no, we definitely learned that Instagram likes fails more than it likes kind of glamour footage. Yeah, I'm still sat on a bit of footage of an absolute pile up at Garda, which is caught in the background. Yeah, some of the high profile members of the fleet coming together in the background. So I'm going to save that for over the Christmas period, which is something to look forward to.
Well, can't wait. What are you? So that's probably quite a good point to kind of wrap up on. What are your closing comments for the fleet as we snuggle up for the Christmas break?
I think for me, it's a case of, start planning a year now. Just there are so many things to get involved in next year, right? And quite early on in the year. I think last year we had, it was 12 or 13 boats come to the Bloody Mary, and it was a really good laugh. So definitely that's earmarked as one of our like development weekends, the Bloody Mary on the 6th of January. So I'd say, don't snuggle up for too long, just come out and get involved in that. And it's great because, like I say, we're trying to put effort into adding value to everything. So for example, for the Bloody Mary on the Saturday, on the Sunday, if you've entered the Bloody Mary, you can come and sail for free, be part of the club racing at Queen Mary. We're expecting a handful of 800 to stay on for that. So you can then, have a practice with, without being amongst 100 boats, which might be a bit more calm and relaxing way to start the year as well. So turn up and get involved and get value out of the boat that you've got. That's my message. There are a lot of 800s around, so maximize your enjoyment of that boat. It's a great boat to sail, and like I say, the people are great and friendly. So there's a lot to get from your time away in it. So come and get involved, basically.
I think one thing we've got to say about next year is that it's our 25th anniversary and it's RS's 30th anniversary. So I'm not a big fan of nostalgia, I must admit, but it should be some incentive to get involved if you've been involved in a class before and you have got that that kind of FOMO building up inside to re-involve yourself with us. We've discussed a lot about how we're looking to develop and be encouraging to people who are new to the boat and make sure that they can learn in the fleet and continue to learn. But we're really would love to have some of the old hands back, even if it's just for a guest appearance. And that has the fact that it is the 25th anniversary is one of the reasons we're going to Hayling Island, which is where a lot of the development was done for the 800. So it's a bit of a kind of a natural home for the fleet, a strong home fleet as well. So expecting a really bumper entry there. And I think it'll work well kind of opposite the Europeans in Amour La Plage as well, because it's a similar sort of venue. So kind of the best offering of the kind of French heartland of sailing versus in Lorient versus the UK, the Solent, and I think that's going to be an extra incentive, or should be an extra incentive for people to come back to the fleet.
Just to wrap up from my side, big thank you to both Tom and Hugh for your time this evening and for giving us your reflections on what was, in my opinion, a fantastic year. I certainly loved it, and I'm very much looking forward to next year. Thank you very much.